Good afternoon and welcome to the February 25th meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. Chair Danielson is not present for today's meeting, so our first order of business will be to appoint an acting chair. In the past, member John Rogers has stepped in, so unless there are any objections, I would ask for a motion to appoint Mr. Rogers as the acting chair.
I will move.
Thank you. Moved by Chris Wood, seconded by Gary Trapp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby appoints John Rogers as the acting committee chair for the February 25th, 2022 meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. John Rogers, yea or nay?
I'll abstain.
Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yay.
And Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yay.
That's carried.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you, committee. And we will have called the meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof? I see none. The following meeting of the Committee of Adjustment is a public meeting to consider development proposals that do not comply with provisions of the Township Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw. The planner will provide a brief overview. Applicant or their agent will have to address the committee. Following this, anyone else who wishes to speak to the application will be given an opportunity to do so. The committee will then discuss the proposal and be given an opportunity to ask questions respecting the application. The committee will then vote to grant, refuse, or defer the proposal. After the decision is made, there is a 20-day appeal period before the decision is final. And is the approval of the minutes. If we could have a motion for approval. Gary Trapp, seconded by Chris. What? Sorry, Gary.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Just an administrative matter around the minutes, if I may.
Yes.
Reviewing the minutes from the past meeting, I recall we had one file, I'm not sure which one, where we had a couple of abstainers from the vote. And I'm just thinking that it would be helpful perhaps for our minutes to have a little bit more detail around whether it was carried or denied. And specifically, there's a couple different formats that would be acceptable under Robert's rules. I might suggest that we would include the names of those in favor and those against, and a very brief one-liner for anyone who abstained as to why. But as I say, there are a couple other options that are acceptable under Robert's rules, but I think it would be helpful not only for the committee, but anybody reviewing the minutes to be able to look back and see how the vote went in a little more detail without having to do any more research or such. So that's my suggestion. A fairly minor one, but that's what I'm suggesting, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Firstly, the minutes do reflect that each motion has been carried. So there is an indication that it's been carried. Because we're in this COVID environment at the moment, we don't actually sign the decisions, but I'm so new to the committee that I haven't been here when there were in-person meetings, so I have to look to Sean as to whether normally the committee does sign the actual decisions, which then gives people the opportunity to see whether there's a person has been in favor or against a particular motion or has abstained from voting on a particular motion. So Sean, maybe if you could answer or help us out on this.
Yes, so you are correct. Under normal circumstances, if we were meeting in person, the decision would be signed by those who supported the motion and decision. Since we've been meeting virtually, all the votes are recorded on the decision as a yay or a nay, and that is a public document that's accessible should any member of the public want to obtain a copy of that. So it's not recorded directly in the minutes, but it is recorded in our files here.
Comment, John.
Yes.
Sean, just a comment. Is there any possibility that we could signify on the carried motion that 4 were in favor, 1 abstained, 3 were in favor, 2 objected, anything like that?
Yes, I can certainly look into what options are available as far as including those who supported versus those that did not support a decision directly within the minutes.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily have to have the names, but I think it would be nice to know that there were some objections to some applications.
Fair point, and I will
Okay.
look into that.
So with that, thank you, Gary, for raising that. Are we okay with approving the minutes as they currently are shown for this meeting? Then we'll have Sean take a look at how he might be able to reflect the actual vote structure. It's of future meetings. Gary?
Yeah, sure. I'd be great with that. And I would move to accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you. And I think, Chris, you had seconded the motion earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So moved by Gary Trapp, seconded by Chris Woods. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves as circulated the meeting minutes of January 28th, 2022. John Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay.
Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yay.
And Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yay.
That's carried.
The next item is the business arising from the minutes, and perhaps these minutes can just reflect that we had the discussion about how the vote could be reflected in the future minutes. That is a good spot perhaps to have that business arising. And I don't see any other business arising from the minutes. And I will then move to new business. And the first item is report PL 01722, which is the minor variance application for the Hewitts in the township of Stanhope Halls Lake. Sean, if you could give us your report.
Yes, this property is located at 1359 Braylock Road. The lands are zoned shoreline residential type 1, exception 22, and designated waterfront in the official plan. Just a note on the zoning, the exception 22 was put in place as part of a previous severance application, only to recognize the lot frontage and area of the subject lands. So the area of the subject land is 0.56 acres with 54.2 meters of frontage on Halls Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, and the lands are currently being developed with a single family dwelling. The applicants are proposing to attach a 576 square foot garage to the dwelling under construction. Existing lot depth and topographical constraints and existing site infrastructure, including the driveway, do limit the available building location that the attached garage could be constructed in compliance with the zoning bylaw requirements. Therefore, the applicants are applying for the following variance, and that is from section 4.2.8 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 26.5 meters to permit the construction of a 567 square foot attached garage. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, and circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, as well as to the Halls Hawk Lake Property Owners Association. No objections have been received to date, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. One, that confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed attached garage is not located closer than 26.5 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing, site alteration, or the issuance of a building permit. And 2, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
Thank you. And is the applicant or their agent present?
Yes, both I believe are, and we'll bring them in to speak to the applicant.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good afternoon. You've heard Sean's report, and I just wondering if there's any further information you'd like to provide to the committee.
Sure. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak. This has been a family property of mine going back several generations. And it's always been sort of a dream of ours to finally move up here, which we're just doing now. So the only things we really wanted to point out was that originally this property had 3 dwellings on it, and we've reduced that to 2. And we've moved back further from the lake in an attempt to make this build as environmentally friendly as we can, and as lake friendly as we can. So obviously new septic going in as opposed to the current older ones. So yeah, those were the sort of the main points we wanted to make. We're trying to make this as sort of green as we can and blending in with the environment as we can, and respecting the health of the lake as well. So.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Cowden, did you have anything to add at this point? No, it's good. Okay,
I don't have
are there any?
Okay. But if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sure, thank you. Are there any questions from members of the committee?
I have a couple.
Chris.
Thanks very much. A couple of things I'd like to comment on. When I went through the property and was speaking with the owners, they had mentioned that there were 3 lots there. And I think this is what you were saying earlier, that there were 3 lots and you've turned the 3 lots into 2 lots, hence making the lot you're building on a larger lot. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was actually, technically it was 1 lot with 3 cottages on it. So when my grandparents purchased this land, it was considered 1. So my sister and I severed it into 2 lots and removed the cottage that was between us. My sister lives next door. So it's become 2 lots legally with 2 dwellings instead of 1 lot with 3 dwellings.
Thank you. And the other thing that confused me a little bit was you were already under construction. You must have gone through a building permit to get under construction, I assumed. And if the garage was part of that original application, or was it not? Was this an afterthought?
It was part of the original application, and I might let Thomas speak to that because he had the direct dealings with Sean on that. He applied for that permit for us.
Yeah, so it was part of the original set of plans for permit. And I'm not sure whether this was an oversight from a designer perspective or what have you, just being that with the original design, the setback from the waterfront to the garage, as it was proposed at least, could not be met. As we've discussed through this, the difficulty is that if we were to meet the required setback for the garage, we wouldn't be able to meet the rear yard setback as well, because by the time you delete the width of the garage, the minimum frontage or the minimum setback from the lake that you need, you can't meet the rear setback as well.
All of that's great, and I appreciate all of that information. I'm still a little confused. If it was in the original drawings and in the original application, what went wrong? I don't understand that.
The garage couldn't meet the setback from the lake.
Was it not approved originally though by the township to do the building with the original?
To do the building without the garage.
It was a building without the garage.
Yes, that's what the approval was for. Yes.
Okay. All right. Now I understand. So the garage is in fact an afterthought from the application, the original application. Is that correct?
It's not an afterthought because it was part of the original application, but the garage aspect of it was not approved as part of the building. Only the home portion was approved. If that,
I got you. I got you now. I am now very clear as to what happened. Thank you.
And I'm sure Greg Moore could help us out, but I think you're okay now, Chris, with the situation.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? And then is there a motion with respect to this? I move the recommendations, or are you asking a question? Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just a comment. I think from the site plan, once the existing cottage is torn down, all of the new structure, the new house, the garage, everything will actually be farther back from the high water mark than the existing cottage. Just one word of caution. On the site diagram, it shows a distance back of 87 feet plus or minus. And I don't know if we've normally had those in there, but just a caution to the applicants and the contractor. We've certainly had more than one situation in the past where the measures weren't exactly, once the survey is done, the measures weren't exactly in agreement with the site plan, and they might be off by as little as a half a foot and required the applicant to reapply again for the variance. So I just wanted to clarify that at the right time, the right people want to make sure that that 87 plus or minus is pretty darn accurate. That's all that kind of jumped out at me. So just a thought.
Yeah, so that 87 number, we should be behind that. The reason why it says plus or minus is because it won't likely be 87 feet exactly, but it'll certainly be behind that number.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I'd hate to see the applicant go through this again for a sake of a foot difference.
Thank you.
Okay, so once again, is there a motion with respect to this? Gary, moving it. Okay, and a seconder.
I will second.
Chris will second. Thank you.
Moved by Gary Trapp, seconded by Chris Woods. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application AHMB 00122 to seek relief from section 4.2.8 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 26.5 meters to permit the construction of a 567 square foot attached garage. Conditional on that confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed attached garage is not located closer than 26.5 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing, site alteration, or the issuance of a building permit. And two, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline. Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yay.
Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yay.
And John Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay.
That's carried.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Stewart. As I said earlier, there is a 20-day appeal period after this
Right.
decision, so you can't actually get into the construction until that 20-day appeal period's expired.
Understood.
Thank you very much for being here this afternoon.
Thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
And you. The next application is report PL 01822, minor variance with respect to property in the township of Sherburne, Buffett, Sauvé.
Yes, this property is located at 1033 Bonfield Street. The subject lands are zoned shoreline residential type 1 and are designated as part of the they're zoned hamlet residential and designated as part of the Dorset settlement area in the official plan. The lands are approximately 0.37 acres in area with 30.5 meters of frontage on Bonfield Street. Surrounding uses are generally hamlet residential, commercial, and industrial, and the lands are currently developed with a single family dwelling, a garage, and a shed. The applicants are proposing to construct a 600 square foot addition to the rear of the existing dwelling. The existing dwelling location, along with lot depth, limits the available building locations that would comply with the zoning bylaw requirements. So they have applied for the following minor variance, and that is from table 2 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required rear yard setback from 10 meters to 3 meters for the purpose of constructing a 600 square foot addition to a dwelling. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, and circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands. No objections have been received. A letter of support has been received from the adjacent landowner to the rear of the subject lands. And staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. 1, confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed addition is not located closer than 3 meters from the rear lot line prior to any clearing, site alteration, or the issuance of a building permit. And 2, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Thank you. Are the applicants present today or their agent?
They are not.
Oh, okay. And is there anyone else present with respect to this application?
No, there is no one else.
Okay, okay, thank you. Committee, I know when people are not present, sometimes folks want to defer the matter, although I think this is a pretty straightforward application, and we can proceed if you wish to do so. Are there any questions or comments with respect to this application? Gary?
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of comments. I think our bylaws are quite generous with respect to side yard and rear yard setbacks. That's in favor of being very close to the property lines. In my opinion, normally I would find this one quite close, being 10 feet of living quarters to the property line for not only the neighbors, but I think we have to think about potential future neighbors, and a support letter by the neighbor would not normally by itself be enough to sway me. But in this case, I just wanted to make those points that I think the bylaws are very generous. But in this case, when I looked at the property, the natural barrier there, the hill, is quite a good barrier for the neighbor as far as visual and sound, and it's not practical use for the neighbors anyways to build up on their side of the property. So I can support it, but I just did want to make that comment that normally I would take these side yard and rear yard setback requests to be very rarely approved in my humble opinion, just because our bylaws are so generous already. But in this case, there's a natural barrier, so I can be in favor of supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then if we could have a motion with respect to this application. Chris, moving the recommendations. And a seconder. Julia, seconding that.
Moved by Chris Wood, seconded by Julia Shortreed. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application HMV 00222 to seek relief from table 2 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required rear yard setback from 10 meters to 3 meters for the purpose of constructing a 600 square foot addition. Conditional on the following. 1, that confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed addition is not located closer than 3 meters from the rear lot line prior to any clearing, site alteration, or the issuance of a building permit. And 2, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yay.
Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yay.
And John Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay,
That's carried.
that application is approved. Can't tell anybody that there's a 20-day appeal period because they're not here. There is still a 20-day appeal period. The next application then is report PL 01622. It's a minor variance application with respect to Oxtongue Lake, and D. Francesco is the owner.
Yes, this property is located at 4024 Highway 60. The lands are zoned recreational commercial and designated as part of the Oxtongue Lake settlement area in the official plan. The property is approximately 2.55 acres in area with 111 meters of frontage on Oxtongue Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, recreational commercial, and hamlet residential. And the lands are currently developed with a single family dwelling and 11 accommodation units. The applicant is proposing to construct a 180 square foot addition on the rear of accommodation unit number 3, which is identified on the attached site plan. The proposed addition will be on the rear of the existing accommodation unit. The structure is currently set back 16.7 meters from the high water mark, and the proposed addition will be 22 meters from the high water mark. It is also currently 2 meters from the southerly interior side lot line. The current location of the structure, other structures, and the driveway limit the available building locations that would comply with the bylaw. Therefore, the following minor variances are being requested. And that is 1, from table 2 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 22 meters for the purpose of constructing a 180 square foot addition to an accommodation unit. As well as from table 2 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the interior side lot line from 10 meters to 2.5 meters for the purpose of constructing a 180 square foot addition to an accommodation unit. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, and circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, as well as to the Oxtongue Lake Property Owners Association. 3 letters of objection have been received concerning the proposed setback to the water, the potential impact to Oxtongue Lake, and the reduced setback to the adjacent lot, as well as concerns with the public notice given. 1 letter of support was received, and that was from the adjacent property owner where this relief is being sought. Staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. 1, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township and or the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And 2, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
Thank you. Are the applicants or their agent in attendance?
Yes, we'll bring them in.
And Mr. DeFrancesco, I'm not sure if you were planning on attending by video or we don't see you. There we go. We do see you now. Okay. Is there anything that you wish to add to the report that Sean has given to us? We're not hearing you at the moment, but it does look like you have you have taken yourself off mute, but we still can't hear you.
Hello?
Well, sort of heard you. Try again. It's spotty at the moment.
Sorry, how about if I move it like that?
That's good. Yes, that's here.
Here right now. Sorry.
Yeah.
How are you? Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good. I just wanted to talk about the application. So the addition I want to do is there's absolutely no risk at all to the natural, to the watermark. We're moving back further a little bit, and we're not touching the septic system. We're not planning on adding bedrooms. We're not planning on adding more occupancy. It's just for more space. I mean, these cabins were built in the 50s, and back then there was no need for TV or internet. It was, you just come in, drop your stuff, and head outside. But things have changed a little bit now, you know. And as far as our neighbor that we joined property lines with, we're actually, if you see the site plan, we're actually moving away from his property. It angles off away from it. So it's not like we're actually getting closer or even running parallel. We're actually running away from it, right? So my goal is just to add a little bit more room. That's pretty much where I'm at right now. So I don't see there being any issue with septic leaking into Oxtown Lake. You know, last June, Greg Moore can attest to this. We've beefed up our septic system. I now have an alarm on it that if anything goes wrong, it sounds off like a siren. So we're very safe, and again, I'm not looking to add occupancy at all, just space.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Sean, are any of the other interested people in attendance today?
No, there are no other
No.
parties.
Okay. So, committee, are there any questions or comments? Gary.
Yes, thank you. This is Mr. Chair, more for maybe Sean. Just, I might have a couple other questions, but initially an administrative matter. For the objection letters that were received, they all referred to a file number of 03821, which I wasn't quite tracking it's different than this file. This file is 1622. I just want to make sure, are we linking the objection letters to this file? It's probably just an administrative thing, but it's just something that caught my eye.
Yes, so 3821 is the file number. 1622 is my report number.
Okay, thank you. The other, sorry, Mr. Chair, if I could continue.
Yes.
Just with respect to the part of the content of one of the objection letters, there was a concern raised by one of the people about the timing involved of when they received the opportunity to object. I think they were feeling pretty tight timelines in terms of when they received the notice and when they had to respond. I think they made reference to February 18th and had to reply by the 23rd. I know generally, I think our time limits, Sean, are fairly tight anyways, but can you just comment, was this satisfactory, or was there a delay of some sort on this particular one? Or do we have any thoughts about, are we giving neighbors sufficient time to respond?
Yes, so the Planning Act does require notice to be given within 10 days of a public meeting, and those public notice letters went out meeting that time frame, as well as the sign being posted on the property prior to the 10 days before the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Chair, if I could continue while I'm talking anyways. If,
Yes.
Okay.
Please do.
Just a comment I have is I do find these requests for extending a building size so close to a property line concerning. Again, I think these, I think our bylaws are pretty generous. I'm not sure, you know, we're talking about 8 feet or so from a property line, and I'm always concerned about neighbors. And I appreciate that the applicant has suggested it's not for more capacity, but a larger structure does potentially allow for a little more capacity, and we have to be concerned about if that is the case, adhering to current bylaws and such. But I have difficulty with extending buildings so close to property lines on behalf of neighbors or future neighbors. I think 8 feet just seems really, really tight. And I know there's an existing building there, but I have difficulty adding to that problem as I see it anyways. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there any, sorry, DeFrancesco.
Sorry. Hi, Mr. Sorry. Hi, everyone. Mr. Trapp, further to what you were saying, I agree. It's a little close. Now, if you take it, I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to do a site visit. Now, if you notice where the addition is proposed, there is a natural barrier, as you spoke of in the last variance application. There's a nice thick forest that it doesn't block anybody's views. To tell you the truth, you wouldn't even be able to tell that an addition is being put there. So as you mentioned before, there is that natural barrier of thick forest. I mean, it's about 20 to 25 feet thick before you even get to the front yard. So it does have that little buffer zone, as you mentioned before.
Yeah, if I could respond, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I appreciate your comment.
Yes.
I didn't quite see the buffer quite the same way as the previous property. And I did visit yours. The other barrier was a significant hill. But anyways, it's not to compare one to the other. But yeah, with all due respect, I didn't see the barrier quite the same way as you might. But that's difference of opinion. So thank you for your comment, though.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Just one thing, because we did get 3 letters of objection, Mr. DeFrancesco, I know it's never nice to see when people are objecting to something, but it also says to me that maybe some community building or relationship building might be in order to go out. It sounded like you did that with your most direct neighbor, and that was a good thing to do. Maybe having a discussion with these other folks to try to solve the issues that they raised would be appropriate. We don't really have jurisdiction over a lot of the things that were mentioned in those letters, but
sorry if I may jump in.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you off, but you're right, absolutely. Now, see, the problem is with these 3 complaints, there is a little bit of a history there. And again, Greg Moore can contest to this, and I'm sure everybody in the bylaw office can agree that it's the same 3 people complaining every time I pick up a hammer or every time we move to do something. I mean, in the past summer, we had the cops called on us because there was apparently a live band playing in our backyard, which was completely false when the cops showed up. So, I mean, I do feel that the 3 people, I mean, if you even read the complaints, all 3 complaints typically sound the same. So I feel like they're doing it because it's me, not because of the building, right? So that's, I mean, there's a history there, right?
okay. Certainly saw that as something. Sean, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I also just wanted to clarify that any previous bylaw complaints also have no bearing on the application at hand, just for the committee's information.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Actually, and administratively, Sean, with those letters of objection, does that now give them a right to notice of the decision, or did they have to specifically ask for receipt of the notice of decision?
Anyone who provides comments on an application are sent a notice of decision.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, is there a motion? Moved by Julia and a seconder. By Gary. Okay.
Moved by Julia Shortreed, seconded by Gary Trapp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application AHMB 3821 to seek relief from Table 2 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 22 meters for the purpose of constructing a 180 square foot addition to an accommodation unit, as well as from Table 2 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the interior side lot line from 10 meters to 2.5 meters for the purpose of constructing a 180 square foot addition to an accommodation unit. Conditional on any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township and or the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And 2, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline. Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Afraid I have to say nay based on the interior side lot setback.
Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Nay.
And John Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay.
That's a tie, which I believe means it would be a defeated motion.
Yes, yeah, unfortunately, it means, Mr. DeFrancesco, that the application is refused because of a tie vote. Normally, if we had 5 members, there would not be there would not be a possibility of a tie. It would be a decision one way or the other. So you do have a right of appeal. There's 20 days within which you can submit an appeal to the LPAT, Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. If you could probably sure talk to Sean about that process and what is needed for you to make that appeal.
I have a question now. Mr. Chris Woods, you sit on, sorry, you reside at Oxton Lake?
I do.
Now, would it be not a conflict of interest? Can I request a panel?
No. You can't ask that question. And Mr. Woods had the opportunity at the start of the meeting. We all have that opportunity to disclose any potential conflicts of interest. It's a very specific act that deals with the conflict of interest or pecuniary interest, and Mr. Woods has I'm sure carefully considered whether he has a conflict or not, and has made the decision accordingly. He is a member of our committee.
Now, in my application for to appeal it, am I able to request another panel member? Because Mr. Woods and myself have run this in the future, in the past.
No, that has nothing to do again with the with this decision today, and the appeal process is a tribunal that is totally out of the hands of this committee. Once this decision is made, it is made, and the appeal process now goes up to the provincial level. So,
Okay.
so you will, as I said, Sean will give you that advice, and Sean does want to say something as well. Sean.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate that. I can go over your appeal rights following the meeting if you want to touch base with me.
Sure.
Okay. So as say that's the end of this application for today. You do have that right of appeal, Mr. DeFrancesco, and please get in touch with Sean, and he'll give you the process that you have to go through. Thank you for being here today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's the end of the meeting for today. Sorry, this something that the last application in particular is something you're always very concerned about when you see that many letters of objection. But thank you, committee, for handling it most professionally. The next item is adjournment. And sorry, I guess we didn't actually have it as a note, but Sean, are we going to have a meeting in March?
Yes, I do have applications for March, so that would be March
25th. Yeah. Okay. And if we could have a motion for adjournment then. By Julia, seconded by Chris?
By Julie Shortreed, second by Chris Woods, be it resolved the Committee of Adjustment hereby adjourned its regular meeting at 1:45 p.m. John Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay.
Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yay.
And Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yay.
That's carried.
So that is the end.
Is there
of
anybody
this.
else on this call right at this moment other than us?
Yes, it is a public meeting still.
Thank you.
Is it possible to close out the recording session? And I think Chris wanted to say something, which would be odd. It's off.
Unfortunately, no, it would have to be.
It had to be recorded. Okay. Okay. I understand, Chris, that you would probably want to respond, but
No, I don't need to respond.
yeah,
It's quite
yeah,
all right.
right. Yeah,
It's
okay.
quite all right. I'm happy with what happened.
Okay. Okay. So thank you very much for being here. Thanks.
Thank you.